because they were operating under a growth at all costs mindset, literally growth no matter what it costs. And at some point that has to change. And so like in Uber, no more subsidized rides. I think the same thing has happened in the media space. So people are blaming iOS 14. And inflation. I really think it's just, they don't have to subsidize the cost of acquisition anymore. Google and Facebook, Google and Meta, they basically own it. They're going to set the price and we're going to pay it, right? So if that's true, right, if we're going to acknowledge that is true, then what do we do about it? And I mean, one solution is you can go out there and raise a bunch of money, go negative for an extended period of time, hope that it works out. Not really a strategy we get excited about. So what you got to do is say, one, how do we increase the value of our customers? And two, how do we pull forward as much of that value as possible without damaging the relationship, right? So I'll just say that was kind of the theory and the thought experiment and the questions that we asked to come kind of to this discovery. Does that generally make sense? You want me to keep going? Any insights, follow-up questions, anything?
No, that all makes sense.
Okay. So we want to increase the average customer value. We want to pull it forward. And so what we realize is that we need to have higher ticket stuff. And you've talked about this. I think we did a show on it, an episode on it. Like, you got to raise your prices, right? Full stop. Everybody should raise their prices, but also we should all be offering higher ticket versions of whatever we had, right? It's just something that we got to do. And frankly, your customers are probably going to appreciate it.
And just to be sure that people understand, that applies across all industries. So that's why you have AMG for Mercedes. That's why even though you can buy a Rolls Royce, there's a nicer Rolls Royce called a black badge Rolls Royce, and then there's I don't even know what it's called. There's one that's on top of that they only make like 5 of, and they're $10 million or $30 million. You can buy a Bugatti for a couple $1 million. Or and that's a Veyron, or you can buy a Chiron for 3 or 4 million or 5. And so, like, no matter where you are, that's stuff. iPhone has the iPhone 14 that just got released as we have this show, and they've got the iPhone 14 Pro. So whatever you're doing, what Ryan's talking about, you can go high ticket. Everybody does.
Yeah, organic bananas. An organic banana is like double, triple the cost of a banana.
Right.
Like, so this exists everywhere. You need to offer it. So what we said, our question is, okay, how do we flip the funnel? How do we flip the funnel? Because traditionally, the way the value ladder would happen, the way that kind of we taught it, everybody taught it, is you started low. So somebody comes in for free. You sell them a low ticket offering, a tripwire self-liquidating offer, inch point offer, whatever. If they buy that, you offer them something more expensive, then something more expensive and more expensive. And that's the basic idea. So we're just going to march them up the stair step value ladder, to mix metaphors. And so what we were saying is, how do we flip it? How do we get the people to just say, like, here's the most expensive thing. Do you want it? And the risk of this is always, and the reason we told people not to do this is, if you just show people like the most expensive thing you got, it's a bit like proposing marriage on a first date, right? That's what I've always said. The reality is, though, within some circles, there's people who are totally fine and they are ready. They want to sprint into marriage. So there's always these people in any customer group. And I think these are the two categories that you want to look for, right? People who are both qualified, and this is a biggie. This is the one that we forgot about the first time we did this test, ready. So they need to be both qualified and they need to be ready. So qualification.
Can I give a couple of thoughts on that? So we found this, like, we saw people who were having success with the flipped funnel. Our friend Russ Ruffino starts with a higher end product and goes down. A lot of sales assisted programs where you have a sales team start with the highest thing and then downsell, as opposed to starting with the lowest thing and upsell. And I think that the thing that we realized was that, and this was back with you and Perry, right, was that, well, if somebody buys a inexpensive thing, then they're multiple times more likely, already being a customer, already having made a decision to be the customer, they're multiple times more likely to buy the next thing than if you start at the higher thing. So it's just easier to get them in. And if you do the math and say, well, I've got 100,000 customers that came in, and those 100,000 customers are this much more likely to buy the next thing, and the next thing is 10 times more than the first thing they bought, and it was inexpensive, that first thing, then you'll ultimately make more money. But it doesn't, and that's a good theory. And I think in some businesses it probably still works. It's just that when you can have a higher thing to start with, that can be really good. It also can give perspective in the pricing studies that they've done, where it's like, well, if you give them a high thing and a lower thing, they're much more likely, having been exposed first to the higher thing, to then want to buy